There are over 900 moves Pokemon can learn in the Pokemon universe. But somehow, Pokemon GO only has 250 moves currently available in-game.
What?
So today I thought it'd be fun to look at some moves that are not in Pokemon GO yet and see how some of these moves would stack up in the meta and how would they work in Pokemon GO. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, first things first, how are moves introduced into Pokemon GO? And there's two main ways. Number one, community days are most popular for introducing new moves. When a Pokemon gets a community day, it usually comes with an exclusive move for that Pokemon. Then after community days, we will usually get every single 3 months a complete move change up in Pokemon GO, changing what Pokemon can learn, what fast moves and charge moves, and what fast moves and charge moves are available in game. Our next one will be at the end of February, so you can stay tuned till then. But usually those will switch up a bunch of moves, a bunch of new Pokemon will get available, get access to new moves, etc., etc. So if you're wondering how any of these moves would make it into Pokemon GO, it most likely will be through one of those two methods. Also, before we do get into the moves, huge shout out to everyone on Twitter who did help out with making this list. Okay, the first move we're going to talk about is going to be the bug move U-turn. Now, if you don't know, U-turn in the main series games is a move when you use it, you will instantly swap out that Pokemon. The main man PV Poke on Twitter gave the suggestion that U-turn would be a charge move in Pokemon GO that would allow you to instantly reset your switch clock when you use that move. Say you swap out into a Pokemon, you use U-turn, you would instantly be able to swap out into another Pokemon. I think if balanced right and it's not too spammy, I think this move could be very interesting to see in the PvP metas, because as a safe swap, you would never really be in danger because you can just use U-turn and then get out of there into another Pokemon, and I would think it would make for some fantastic gameplay. The next move we're going to be talking about is going to be Explosion. Huge shout out to Judgment for submitting this idea. Explosion in the main series games is a move when you use it, your Pokemon will faint, but it does massive damage. It's kind of like just an explosion. You self-destruct yourself. There's also a move called self-destruct. In Pokemon GO, it would work similar in which you use it and your Pokemon faints, but it's not too expensive in terms of energy and it does massive damage. So it's generally just a one-shot. You could even make it a guaranteed one-shot. I don't know if that'd be too broken, but I think it'd be kind of like a one-for-one trade. Some people even threw up the idea that Explosion could go through Protect shields. I don't really know if I like that idea about not being able to block an Explosion, because then someone on the lead can literally just knock out your first Pokemon no matter what. But I think Explosion would be a very interesting move to see in Pokemon GO. Next on the list is going to be credit to Dave Hernandez, and that's going to be a fast move, our first one, called Agility. In the main series games, Agility, when you use it, will increase the speed stat of your Pokemon, allowing you to outspeed the Pokemon and use your moves before them. David had a great idea for this move in which it's a fast move that at the start when you're using it, it's a very slow move. It's like a 5-turn move, like Incinerate. But as you use it more and more, the move speeds up, so you generate energy quicker. So let's say it starts as a 6-turn move that takes 3 seconds, and then as it goes, it gets faster and faster. So the longer you stay in with that Pokemon using that fast move, the more you're rewarded and the more energy you gain, and that can just snowball. Of course, they would have to balance it and make it not, too easy to use, in which you can just use that. And then by like 6 fast moves, you're generating like 100 energy a second or something like that. But I think it could be very interesting and it would be a very interesting mechanic. Another one by David Hernandez is going to be our next one, and that's going to be Thunder Wave. This one's going to be a charge move, an electric type charge move, and in the main series games, what it will do is it will paralyze your opponent. Obviously, you don't have anything like paralysis or sleep or poison or any of these elements in Pokemon GO, but the suggestion David gave would be that it would lower the amount of energy your opponent can get. I don't know if that's a bit too broken, but it'd be interesting that you could use it and then they would gain maybe 1 less energy point every time they use a fast move until they swap out when it gets reset. Another thought I had about a paralysis in Pokemon GO would be if you use it on somebody, every once in a while they would kind of skip a fast move and they would lose out on a fast move of energy, kind of like they just get paralyzed for a little second like that. I think that could be very interesting if they brought paralysis to Pokemon GO. Of course, it would have to be balanced and tested and all that stuff, but it could be interesting. Now, you notice most of these moves are made for PvP because I think that's where most of the fun comes from it. Most of the PvE related charge moves are just going to be, moves that just do good damage for good energy. But this next one submitted by Phoebus, I think is a very interesting idea. It's going to be a move called Payday, which I believe is exclusive to the Meowth line. It would be a charge move, and when you use it in a raid, you would be able to get 1 coin for a max of 10 a day or 20 a day every time you use it. You would just have to have a Meowth in your party, use Payday once, and at the end of the raid, you would get a coin, and you could do this 20 times to get a bunch of extra coins. I think it'd be interesting if we had some sort of Pokecoin gaining item, or even something that's more Stardust related, like you use it and you gain Stardust every time you use this charge move. I think it'd be very interesting for grinding. It could add a lot more, strategy in raids, I guess, because right now it's just like bring the best mon and tap, tap, tap. But let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about this. The next move we're gonna be talking about, and that's gonna be suggested by Yonkis, and this is something that's you've been talked about in the community for a while, is going to be the move Giga Drain. Giga Drain, Mega Drain, which Mega Drain's already in the game, would of course be a healing charge move, which is something the community's wanted for the longest time. It would be a grass type charge move, and then when you use it, you would get a certain amount of the amount of damage you did back. So let's say you use it on a super effective mon, use a grass move on a Swampert, you're gonna be getting like half your health back. If you use it on a steel type where it's not super effective, you'll get a lot less health back when you use it. Of course, again, this would have to be balanced properly, but I think it could be very interesting. There's also a bunch of other healing type moves similar to this for other types that could definitely make their way into the game as long as healing comes to the game. I think healing would be a very interesting thing to bring to PvP, and I think it would make it a lot more interesting and dynamic. Next up, we're going to have a suggestion from Mali TSW, I think is how you say it, with Baby Doll Eyes. Baby Doll Eyes would be a charge move, and here they suggest that it would be a Feather Dance clone. I believe Baby Doll Eyes like drops the opponent's defense or attack in the main series games, so it would be similar to Feather Dance, doing the exact same thing, not doing a lot of damage, but it would be dropping attack. It would be a fairy charge move as well, which you can always use more fairy moves because there's not a lot in Pokemon Go. Next up, we're going to have a suggestion from the Gosney saying Metal Sound. Now, steel types are known for not having good fast moves at all. There's like Bullet Punch, which is decent, and like that's about it. So we would love to see a high energy gaining metal fast move, and that would be Metal Sound. It could be given on Pokemon like Magnezone, I believe, can learn it. I believe Melmetal, I'm not 100% sure, but it would be very interesting to see this move on some Pokemon in which steel types can finally start having some play, because right now they don't really have that great of stuff other than like Bullet Punch and Meteor Mash is like all they really have. Next up from the Galvanator 3 is going to be putting up the move Protect, and I love this idea. Protect in the main series games is a move when you use it, any attack that you get hit by, you do not take damage from. If you use it multiple times in a row, it fails to work. Obviously, we have shields in Pokemon Go, and that's probably supposed to be similar to Protect, but if Protect was a very high energy move and a lot to use it, but it blocked the next charge move you got hit by, I think it could be very interesting as a move. Say it was like 100 energy, you need max energy to use it, but when you use it, you block whatever charge move is, or even it could be like you block any damage coming through for the next 10 seconds or something like that. So your opponent can still wait it out, but it gives you that time to maybe swap out and make a play. I think Protect would be very interesting to see in Pokemon Go and how Niantic would implement it, and I think it is a matter of time that this move does come to the game, but let me know what you think about it. Next up, we're gonna have a move from Push, and that's gonna be Swords Dance. Swords Dance in the main series games will increase your attack, and I think in Pokemon Go, it would do the same thing. Similar to moves like Power Punch or Obstruct, moves that do very, very little damage, but buff your attack or your defense or whatever, would be Swords Dance. Swords Dance, of course, would do less damage than Power Punch, but it would buff your attack by 2 stages, really setting you up to be a threat. For example, like if Garchomp knew Swords Dance, you could go ahead, bring in your Garchomp, Swords Dance once, and then you could really threaten with an Outrage, and Outrage can hit hard neutral damage on a lot of Pokemon. You can even play with the ideas of charge moves that you can use, but they do no damage. So you could really open up the play for some baits in which your opponent shields a Swords Dance, which literally does no damage, and then you're set up to sweep the game. Next up, we're gonna have the move Fly, which would be a flying type charge move, and we've been waiting for this one for a while. Now, I'm not really sure how the stats for Fly would break out. I would think it would be a pretty mediocre move, similar to like Sky Attack, but if you don't know in the main series games, Fly is a 2-turn move in which you go up for 1 turn, and then you dodge any move that gets hit, and then you come down for the next turn, and you use the move. I don't know how it would work in Pokemon Go, but maybe if you use the charge move, like you go fly up, and then you have like 5 seconds before the damage actually lands, so any fast moves your opponent does in those 5 seconds after you throw the charge move do no damage. Not 100% sure, but I think there's a lot of potential with the move Fly. Next up, we're gonna have Volt Tackle and Wood Hammer, and even throwing in Flare Blitz in there. These 3 moves are moves that in the main series games, when you use them, you do damage to yourself. And I think it'd be very interesting to Pokemon Go to add moves that do damage to yourself, but are just like very efficient. Obviously, we have Wild Charge right now, which is another move that I believe you do damage to yourself, but in this game, you drop your defense. But instead of dropping your defense, I think it'd be interesting if you could use a move like Wood Hammer and you would take 25% damage. So your opponent could really checkmate you if they bring you under 25% health, forcing you and not allowing you to throw the Wood Hammer, or else you would OKO yourself. I think these moves could be super efficient in terms of energy and damage. Like they'd be really easy to get to and they do a lot of damage, but the downside, of course, you hurt yourself, which could end up flipping a matchup or not helping you in the end. Next up from Armor's Chen, dropping the Poison Tail, which is a poison fast move, and they're saying here that it would be a Dragon Tail clone. We all know Dragon Tail is a very strong fast move in Pokemon Pokemon Go. It does a lot of damage. I believe it was buffed maybe a year ago. And I think we need more poison fast moves and charge moves. Obviously we have Poison Sting and Poison Jab right now, but I think it'd be interesting to add a very hard hitting poison fast move as Poison Tail. I think it'd be great. Arbok could learn it. A bunch of other Pokemon could learn it. Next up, and one of my favorite ideas here is going to be by Dr. Classroom here, saying Mean Look, which I believe is a ghost type move in the main series games, which prevents your opponent's Pokemon from retreating and switching out. I think in Pokemon Go, it could do the exact same thing, and I think it would be insane if it did the exact same thing, preventing your opponent from switching out for a certain amount of time. Obviously right now, we already have the switch clock in which if you switch, you can't switch for another minute, but if we get introduced to moves like U-turn, which allow for more switching, or even if you're in a scenario where you're on the lead and you don't want your opponent to be able to swap out and you have a good lead and they're staying in, trying to be a little bit greedy, gaining energy, and you throw a Mean Look and then they can't swap, I think that would be very interesting. A better way to say it is Mean Look would reset your opponent's switch clock to a minute, so they wouldn't be able to switch out for a minute because locking them in completely forever would be kind of broken. But I think this would be very interesting to see. Next up, we have Will-o-wisp. Will-o-wisp would be a charge move, and here they suggest that it would be an Icy Wind clone, but for the fire type. I think that's a great idea. I don't really know what Icy Wind does in the main series games, but I know Will-o-wisp burns your opponent, so I think it could be very interesting as a move, does a decent amount of damage, and drops your opponent attack. Next up, which I think would be great for a themed cup, would be the move Metronome. Metronome in the main series games is a move, when you use it, that move can be any other move in the game. You could use a Metronome and then they could end up using a move like Dialga's Roar of Time, or you could use Metronome and they end up using Baby Doll Eyes. In Pokemon Go, I think this would work the exact same thing. It's a charge move, decent amount of energy to get to it, but when you use it, it chooses a random charge move from Pokemon Go and it uses it as that charge move. I think it'd be very interesting to see. Shout out to Watership Bound for that suggestion. Coming down to the end of it, the last three here, and shout out to Yonkis for these last three. Fiery Dance, which is Volcarona's exclusive move. It would be a charge move, of course, 50% chance to buff your attack. In the main series games, it does something similar to that. Obviously, Volcarona's not in Pokemon Go, but I think it would be very interesting to see. Next up, Needle Arms, which would be probably Cacturn's exclusive move if it got a community day. It would be a fast move and it would be high energy gaining is the suggestion we had here. I think any sort of increase in grass fast moves is always appreciated. Finally, the last move is going to be Pin Missile, which would be similar to Needle Arms. It would be a fast move, this time bug type, and it would be a high energy gaining move. I think bug type moves are some of the ones we need the most in Pokemon Go, and I would love to see a better bug fast move than Fury Cutter, maybe like a Poison Jab clone or something like a counter clone, but for bug types, it would be amazing to see. And that's pretty much the bulk of it. I do want to give honorable mentions to pretty much all of the signature moves for legendaries. A lot of people are probably wondering where's Roar of Time on this list and where's Origin Pulse for Kyogre. I didn't really want to mention them because all these moves are pretty much obvious that they're going to come to Pokemon Go and they would be very simple in their addition. If we got a move like Roar of Time or Spatial Ren for Palkia, it would just be a very hard-hitting charge move, similar to Draco Meteor. If we got a move like Crush Grip for Regigigas, it'd be very simple. Rayquaza would get Dragon Ascend. All these moves are going to come to Pokemon Go at some point, and they'll be very simple in their addition. They'll probably just make all of these Pokemon better in PvP and better in raids, as long as the energy count and the damage for these moves is not bad. But I hope you guys did enjoy my list. I wanted to go more in depth on some fun mechanics and some fun, interesting moves we could get to shift up the meta and the whole gameplay dynamic in Pokemon Go. If there's any moves that I missed that you guys want to see in Pokemon Go, of course, let me know in the comment section below. I've been spending 30 minutes a day to try to read all the comments on my video. I know I've been kind of lazy with it in the past, but I really want to make sure I'm interacting with you guys and answering as many questions as you have. So comment below what moves you'd like to see. We're gonna see you in the next one though, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Follow for tips, everybody. Peace.